p.m. We are calling to order the meeting of the Lancaster Select Board for Monday, May 15th, 6 p.m. here in Lancaster. Reminder, this meeting is being recorded and broadcast courtesy of our friends at Sterling-Lancaster Community Television. I'll start with a roll call. Ms. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Allison?
Here.
Mr. Kerrigan? Here. So we are all here, thank goodness. All right, first item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from our meeting of May the 3rd, just before the town meeting.
I'll offer. Sorry. After you, Jason.
He just moved.
Second.
Awesome. That's efficiency. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Allison? Aye. Mr. Kerrigan? Aye. 300 on the minutes. We have no scheduled appearances, no board, committee, and department reports. We do, however, have public comment. And so I apologize. On the agenda, it says that we won't tolerate criticisms or any complaints or negativity, but the Supreme Judicial Court said we have to, so let it rip. As is our normal rule, anyone who is in the room with us will go first, and then we will turn to people on Zoom. We will set, does anyone in the room have, you just have to come near the podium or move that podium out if you want. And we will give you 2 minutes on the clock. I'll sort of wave at you when you have like 45 seconds to go, okay? Name and address first.
So Joe Duramo, 127 Harvard Road. Just have a couple of comments about upcoming agenda items in this meeting. One, the establishment of a tax fairness committee in Lancaster, the warrant article that was approved a couple weeks ago. I voted for it. I'm in favor of it. I think it's a great idea, and I understand there will be a charge given to the board, to that committee, and I just want to state that I think it should be cover all of the things that were in the approved article, and including the broad scope that's mentioned here, to consider and review the fair allocation of property tax burdens in Lancaster. I know there's been a lot of discussion around senior means testing and helping elderly and others in town, but I think the bigger picture review needs to be part of the charter for that committee. So another item, actually one of the reappointments for a position in town on the Board of Assessors. I see Deb Sanders' name listed there, and I went to the Board of Assessors site just to see what the charge is for that board, and and I saw Deb Sanders' name there with a street address that I didn't recognize as being in Lancaster, Acorn Street or Acorn Avenue. I looked it up and found, just quick Google search, I found that she's living in Fitchburg now. And I wondered about any kind of residency requirements for committee and board members, if there are any. And I guess I wonder if reappointing her, because she's already listed as being out of town, is a wise thing to do, setting a precedent for out-of-town folks on committees when you want people with a vested interest in the town in those positions. So I wonder if you might, if you weren't aware that she was not living in town anymore, that you might reconsider that appointment and re-advertise somehow, make the list of volunteers and whatever more prominent on the website.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Anybody online? Throw your hand up.
I have a comment.
Okay, we're going to go through public comment first.
Yeah.
Okay, Jan. There you go. Unmute and then name and address.
Hi, I'm Jan Pirzolo-Mellows, and I own the property located at 12 Neck Road. I don't know if this is the time for the public comment, if I have concerns regarding item number 7 on the agenda, if I should reserve the comments for that portion of the meeting or provide my comments.
This is your time.
Okay. I want to voice my objection to the proposed project that's proposed for the site located at 13 Neck Road. I have concerns about the size and scope of that project, and I want to have the minutes reflect that I intend to submit formal written comments to the state during the 30-day comment period regarding that proposed project.
Okay. Thank you, Jan. Okay, Jan, can you take your hand down then so we don't? Sam M. State your name and address.
Hi all, my name is Sebastian Malatis. I live at 24 Neck Road, Lancaster. Similar to Jan, I just wanted to submit my comment for now that myself and my wife will both reject this project as presented so far. Mainly due to some significant concerns of the size and density of the project, and I think there's going to be some avenues to submit some formal comments about our questions and concerns, which we do intend to do, and just wanted to be known and put on record that there's a number of residents in the area that are concerned about this project, and hopefully the town has got everyone's best interests, including the town itself, in mind as we move forward in this process.
Okay.
The only other thing I was going to say is I don't know if there's any insight as to what's going to be covered in the agenda topic today, but I'm just curious if in the past the town has used any consultants on 40B process or applications that have been submitted in the past.
Yeah. I don't know the answer. You emailed me that question, and I was going to get you that answer. And this agenda item is to introduce the project to us, and so we get the first blush. So I'm glad so many people are on it. We're all in this together on early stages. So.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha Moore.
So I am
Martha, name and address.
agreeing with him.
Name and address, Martha.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought everybody would know that by this point.
We do, but it's just.
Martha Moore, 131 Central Bridge Road, Lancaster. So given that address, I am definitely concerned with the project. We watched the presentation that was given to, I forget which board, Housing Authority perhaps. But in any case, I too have to say that for me this is, the pictures were very pretty and very nice, and we were happy to see a colonial style setting and buildings. However, it seems like it exceeds the size of the lot to a big extent, and the thought of putting yet another 22 cars on Centerbridge Road is just too much. Again, size. And can we scale this down so that it's a little bit more reflective of the area? It is a historic district, and it once was a single home. The multifamily bit I don't agree with because I have been in what was called the apartment, and it just wasn't. So I too will be submitting comments to the state, just so they're aware of residents' feelings about this project, and also the need for caution in terms of the size, the sewer commitment, the water, etc. like that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Ann Ogilvy. State your name and address.
Hi there, Ann Ogilvy, 4 Turner Lane, and I wanted to check in with the select board about the appointments to the Montechusett Joint Transportation Committee. Looks like Jason Allison was appointed back in 2021 in July, but there's been really sparse attendance to the Joint Transportation Committee meetings. So I'm really hoping that with the reorganization of the board and the sort of the fresh start of the new year from a board perspective, that the select board will take it upon yourselves to determine a new signatory for our subregion, and also consider actually appointing a representative. My understanding is that in addition to the signatory, you can appoint the select board can appoint someone and the planning board can appoint someone, and that neither of those need to be appointments made from the committees themselves. They can be other community members. But I think it would be very helpful for the town to have some voices at these different meetings, because the Montechusett Joint Transportation Committee just released the transportation improvement plan for this year. And the comment period actually ends today. It ends on May 15th. But the committee will be reviewing that plan, I believe, this week. So it would be great if we had some Lancaster voices. One of the things in the transportation improvement plan is to improve I'll call it the like Goves/Coles Target exit off of Route 2, but there's nothing else in that plan related to Lancaster, and so it would be really great if we could, start to inform this Joint Transportation Committee about the impending needs due to the developments in town.
Awesome. Thank you. Susan Munyon, state your name and address, please.
Sure, Susan Munyon, 96 Grant Way. I just wanted to also comment about the commissions, the various commissions. I see a whole bunch of appointments going on, and I'd just like to talk a little bit about the Energy Commission. It's not listed as being something that appointments are being assigned to. I understand that there was a letter that went in for the open vacancy, but it has not been read in front of select board up to now, and or asked to be appointed. And I guess I would like to see that the Energy Commission get resurrected. If they do have all 5 members, that there shouldn't be any reason why that can't meet to try to reduce the town's energy costs, as well as look at, for instance, Colonial Power and what the job they're doing, and help with that decision-making process for the cost of our aggregation. So I just ask that commission get appointed and resurrected to active use. The other thing I wanted to comment on was that we had the government commission, and I know at the town meeting we talked about that was supposed to be wrapped up in February, and you had mentioned, Steve, that that's ongoing. I'm just wondering if there is since it was supposed to be only 1 year, if there is a deadline or a date for when that will wrap up, and just wondering if you can comment on that. Thank you.
Sure. I will definitely look into the Energy Commission piece. I know there's a lot of appointments on this agenda because there are a lot of annual appointments that we have to remake, but I will definitely look into that and circle back at another meeting. Government study, yes, we were supposed to be done by February, we weren't. There is no deadline set currently. I think members of the committee, I don't want to speak for all of them, would like to, there's a number of things that we're hoping to accomplish in the next couple of months. And then hopefully report back to the board as soon as possible. The next step is for them to send a recommendation to this body about next steps, whether to create a charter commission or not, or to continue to be governed by bylaws and code. So the short answer is there isn't a deadline beyond the one that we've already missed. Anne, is your hand back up, or are you? Ann Ogilvy is okay, there we go. All right, Kendra Dickinson, I see, is the last person up for public comment. Name and address, please.
Kendra Dickinson, 402 Open Way, speaking as a private citizen. I just want to give a huge thank you and a ton of credit to the town officials that handled this most recent election. It went very well. Ms. Cannon did an amazing job at the polls, and we had a great turnout, so I just want to give you credit where credit is due, and Ms. Hodges for having a fantastic presentation regarding the budget, and as much as we don't like an override, why it was so necessary. So keep up the good work, team.
All righty, thank you. Seeing no other folks up there, we will close public comment. And the next item is the town administrator. There's nobody else up there. Excuse me, what?
I was going to give public comment.
You were going to give a public comment?
Yeah,
You
well-
don't- Yeah, I mean, you could give a comment, you remember the
Well,
board.
it's a comment, I
Yeah.
was going to say.
Sure.
So Alexandra Turner, 620 Main Street, Lancaster.
You are not speaking as a private citizen, however.
No, I'm speaking, no, I am not. But I too, first I wanted to congratulate and welcome back to the board Jason Allison. And I wanted to congratulate the townspeople and the staff on passing the override and having a good town meeting. I think that the presentation that Kate gave of the budget and the other articles, but in particular the budget at town meeting, was excellent. And I know that it was a relatively narrow victory, but I think that now that we have a great opportunity as a select board to bring everybody together and to work. And I think that having every fresh people on every board, whether they're returning or not, I thought it was a great election. There were a lot of people running. It was a full slate, and that's what we hope to see in town politics. So just thank you, everybody. Echoing what Kendra said.
Thank you. I have comments similar to that. I was going to do it when we got to the town meeting and annual town election, but congratulations. It's quite all right. Congratulations. And I'll have more to say when we get there. All right. Anything else before we get to town administrator report? Awesome. Town administrator report. Town administrator report.
Thank you. So people probably know by now, Brian Gingras, who's our building inspector, his last day will be this Friday. And we actually received several applications for his to replace him. And so myself, both chiefs, and our planning director and our finance director interviewed 4 candidates this morning into this afternoon that are all certified commissioners. And I am hopeful that either at the end of the week or beginning of next week, we would go to second interviews with the top candidates for that. So I hope to not have a big gap between his leaving and someone else coming.
Before you go on, can you highlight the importance of the building commissioner, please?
Sure. So so a building commissioner is a certification that comes from several areas of testing and some classes that you have to take, including continuing education. And local inspectors are able to do most of the work, but they have to be overseen by a commissioner. And so what happens is that if we have a local inspector, we need to pay somebody that is a commissioner to come in and sort of check the work. I think of it similar to an apprenticeship. And so already having somebody in a commissioner's designation with a current license negates having to pay for that, which can, in the past, has been anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000, depending on the amount of building that we have going on. And since there are lots of folks that are interested in putting in applications to build in town, it's most advantageous to have somebody that's a licensed commissioner. So we put that back into the job description in the hopes of at least having some candidates the first round, and I'm happy to report that we had 4 excellent candidates today and 2 more that applied over the weekend. So
Fantastic, thank you.
Can I ask a question? So first, in a short time, I was very impressed with Brian. The town is very fortunate to have him. So thank you to Brian for his good work. And congratulations on having a great field, because I know that it's a difficult time. So good recruitment on that. I saw the ad that was out, and I noticed it's for more money, as commissioners usually are paid more money because it's a higher threshold. How does that work with the budget? Is that, can we combine what we had reserved for commissioner and the inspector? Is that neutral?
What is in the ad is what was in the budget for Brian's position. That's what he was making,
Okay,
not as a commissioner.
okay.
So I suspect that, like any negotiation, it might be that the ask is there, but I didn't put it out for more than what's in the budget.
Okay, that's excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
Really? Great. Next.
So, let's see,
Community center.
the community center, we received a grant for the community center. I had actually put in for this grant in January. It's a mixture of an environmental therapy grant and wellness and sustainable planting. We're cleaning up the patio gardens and building up berms with raised plantings and to flank the patio. We're going to be installing an ADA pathway that goes from the garage entrance and the door there all the way to the community garden, then runs from the community garden under the pergola. We'll have a patio area under the pergola and then leads back out into where the parking area is. So hopefully that will be done in the next, well, the planting will be done in the next 7 days or so. The concrete and asphalt work may take longer than that. And the grant initially was for $5,000. We also received some donations for screened loam and topsoil and some other things from there. And the DPW is going to be doing the excavation for us. So it's a nice thing. The plants were delivered on Friday, and we have every staff member is taking a turn watering them because it's been so warm, but they are in the back. There's a really pretty dogwood and a couple of other, native plants to the area. Most sun lovers, a few shade for under the pergola, so we're hoping that spruces up back there a little bit. And Health and Human Services Director Kelly Dolan applied for a digital literacy grant for $100,000 for purchasing devices, software, and other means to increase digital capabilities for older adults. Additionally, the grant has an allowable amount for infrastructure within the community center, such as either Apple or Samsung compliant applications for FaceTime and other things like that. And we also can do virtual meetings and training spaces, maker spaces, so people that are homebound would be able to access programming as if they were right there, sort of a virtual reality type of thing. And last week, we also completed this year's rounds of grant applications for the One Stop, which is a grant program through the state for planning and economic development. And so we submitted 3 grants. The first one was for additional planning, including a phase 2 environmental and some additional site assessments and planning for the DCAM property. Now that we have a signed MOA between us and Mass Development. I just received that actually back today, so that should be starting in the next 2 weeks. We're signing the contract with the phase 1 environmental analysis. So they'll be going out starting next week. We applied for state assistance for technical schematics to update our master plan. I'd like that to be a little bit more user-friendly so that people can submit similar to what they do when they fill out a survey. This is a kind of a comprehensive QR code where you can have certain focus groups. You can get people, to come out, and they have tablets. They can go to a baseball game. They can go to some other event. They can go to a community event, and they have those right there. So that would be more interactive to make sure we get a lot of folks there. So we applied for an assistance grant for that for $80,000. And we applied for $60,000 for wayfinding materials and branding, including signage and literature regarding where things are in Lancaster. If you drive around, most of the signs that are in halfway decent shape point to attractions outside of town. So there are some attractions inside of town, and so the idea of working with MRPC to point people into places in our community that you want to see, either because they're beautiful or places like Kimball's, places like the Rhoda Spring Farms. So that's what we're looking for with, better signage that's more consistent. And the ranked ballot relative to town meetings. So we cannot have a non-ballot ballot in the voting area. And so what we did was we had this with a few signs out in the front, but it seems like if people were coming in the side door, they didn't necessarily see it. So we had deposited a set at the community center with a box to put them in, down at the town clerk's office with a box, and then over at the library. Today, I actually changed the ranked survey to an online survey, and I put that out on social media. I will make a QR code for it tomorrow, and we'll do it so that if you go onto the town's website, it can pop up. You can scan it with your phone and take it there. And so we're going to extend the deadline until the 26th at 5 p.m. to collect all of that. The nice thing about doing it online is then the paper ones that we get, I'll put them in, and then it does the ranked analysis for us, and so we don't have to do the math.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a
Yeah.
way to make it a little
That's a
easier for
definite
us,
bonus,
so
not having to
that's
do
a
it.
bonus. And that is what I have.
Wonderful, thank you. All right. Next, we have administration, budget, and policy. The first item of that is the town meeting and the annual town election. Again, congratulations to Jason and all those elected last week. And thank you to the townspeople for entrusting us with the override. We know it was a difficult decision for folks to make, but I was heartened by the 55% to 45% victory for that. And grateful also to all the candidates who ran this time and might not have been successful this time. You know, campaigns are hard on people, on their families, on their friends, and so I'm grateful to anybody who's willing to put their name on a ballot and volunteer to step up for the town. And I hope that those folks remain active and engaged in our community.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just so, by the numbers,
Yes.
379 attendees at town meeting,
Yeah,
and 1,214 voters at the annual
that's
election.
good. Nice. I would like to see more voters at every election, but that's still a good number for a local election. 379 at the town meeting?
That's correct.
That's actually very good. And it's not the January number, but it's far more than our normal annual town meeting.
It's higher than the other
Yeah.
Years
Yeah.
in the past. I'm assuming it's because of the excellent,
I would assume so. Share of the board. Is that what you were gonna say? No.
right, yes, yeah.
I just sort of assumed that was it, yeah. No, but
I was gonna
that's,
say the subject matter, the excellent.
I will say, I thought it was a very well-done meeting. The preparation, I do think the citizens at large benefit from the Q&A sessions that we did a few weeks before and all of the information that is out there. I know, I'm sure all the town departments are really excited in about 6 weeks to start on the budget process again. That will culminate again next May, but I think the transparency helps an awful lot. And
Cheryl and I already started working on the sheets.
Of course you
It's
did.
really exciting.
Not permanently shocked.
I will say, we were not going to be able, we thought we were not going to be able to have the cafeteria because Sterling-Lancaster Television was sort of, they were over in Sterling the night before, and then Matt did tell us, he's the executive director there, that he was going to be able to pull that off. And I got the most amount of compliments from people who said it was great because they could have their dinner. And a couple of them had their children there doing homework while they were able to pay attention. So
Well, that's good.
if we can swing it, I think it's a good
We
thing
should-
to have,
we
so
should-
it gives,
We should just call our town meeting next year now, so that Sterling can't get the jump on it. Somebody gets
We're not
Sterling
paying for the
like
buffet.
I cannot say that, but
BYOD.
Yeah.
Room
And
dinner.
keep the
Yeah,
cafeteria.
and what you bring in, take out. Carry in, carry out. All right, anything else on town meeting or annual town election?
Did you have anything else? So I just wanted to say how proud I am of the residents. I think there was some numbers thrown around on social media. I apologize for not being able to corroborate them. But I think in one of the neighboring towns, there was 230 people that came out and voted. And it's scary to think about our town being decided by 200 and some people. We had 1,300 people come out, like 4 to 6 times more than that town. And it's a town right next to us. So I'm super proud. I'm proud that there's passion in Lancaster. Hopefully, we'll continue to grow and mature and learn to collaborate in all ways. But overall, I'm really proud. The other part is, I guess I'll just share an experience with my fellow board members. I was coming out of town hall today, and a gentleman was getting out of his car, a senior, and he said, "Hey, who are you? What's your name?" And I said, "Jason Ellis." He goes, "I'm upset that I put a sign in my yard for you because you were for the override." And I said, "I'm sorry." And it dawned on me just in that moment that it's really hard to govern for 8,000 people, right? And because you're never going to make everybody happy, and this may be a very challenging time for this individual, and that stinks. But what also dawned on me is that that's what makes our country the greatest on earth, is that it's not, all or nothing. It is a majority. And it was just a moment that I had this morning, and I was very proud, and I'm proud of our town, and that's what I had to say. Thank you.
You are welcome. Did you keep your sign up?
I've tried to get all of my signs. If there's any signs,
I will, let me do a public thank you to everybody who did that sign pickup. There wasn't one campaign sign left, and I think the next morning, most of them were gone. And I have been definitely guilty of leaving signs up too long. But whoever put them out, picked them up real fast, and thank God, because I think we need to move past elections as fast as we have them. All right, next, reorganization of this board as needed. So every year after our election, we have an opportunity to reorganize the board, which is to choose a chair, a clerk, and a member. Should we so choose, I open the floor to my colleagues for debate, discussion, nominations.
I'm very satisfied with the board.
Okay. Do we have to?
That's great.
Do we have to reorganize, or we just keep churning along?
I don't think you have to. I mean, there's nothing legally, you have your
Right.
rules that say you're gonna do it.
Right. Okay. All right.
You're not changing anything, I don't see.
Well, I could offer a motion to ratify the current,
Reaffirm.
thank you,
All right.
if you like,
Sure.
to reaffirm the current membership of the board.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you, Steve.
Hearing none, thank you. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Kerrigan, aye. Okay, there we are. Thank you both. I appreciate the confidence you've placed in me. Tax Fairness Committee. Huh?
Said that poor man. Just more time with me.
I enjoy all of it. Well, I enjoy a majority of it. Before I get myself in more trouble, Tax Fairness Committee is next on the agenda. Okay, so as we know, this was considered at the town meeting. We were directed to form the committee in our packets. I believe on page 18 has all the material for it. So our responsibilities today are to review and approve the charge, review and approve the appointments, meaning the structure of the committee, what appointing authorities, et cetera, and the determined process for letters of interest. So I will go to this section, particularly, I'll do it a little bit backwards. Membership requirements and expectations. The committee consists of 7 members. A majority of appointed members shall constitute a quorum. Members will be appointed as ad hoc and shall serve until the final report submitted to the select board for action or the senior means tested tax exemption program is brought forward to town meeting for action, whichever is sooner. In any case, no person's term shall be longer than 3 years. The specific membership parameters for the committee include 1 member of the finance committee duly recommended to the select board by the finance committee, 1 member of the board of assessors duly recommended by the assessors to the select board, 1 member of the council on aging or friends of Lancaster seniors duly recommended by the council on aging to the select board, and 4 members at large from the community who will submit letters of interest to the select board. At least 1 at-large member must be over the age of 65 at the time of the appointment. All at-large members must be current Lancaster residents. And then they will appoint a chair, etc. Do you want to take us through any parts of the charge?
Just that I had kind of tried to sum up the responsibilities, which is that the committee shall investigate and provide input to the select board through a comprehensive final report regarding resident taxation and the adoption of a senior means tested tax exemption program. The committee will connect and create partnerships with various town boards and committees to make holistic and comprehensive recommendations to the select board relative to tax fairness for residents. And then I also put that the committee's second part would be to explore the parameters by which Lancaster may adopt a senior means tax exemption program. So there's sort of, there's two threads, and you know, how they go about that. I would imagine that the tax fairness piece, that would inform the latter part. But hopefully the idea is that a report comes back not only about, you know, taxation and how we can make that more economically sustainable in the community, but also what to do when there's seniors that meet these, you know, certain parameters.
So what I'm hearing and reading in the responsibilities, and I was going to make this comment after you made your comment, sir, there is a broad scope and charge. So hopefully this committee as appointed will dig into some of the larger issues and not just focus on the senior means test piece. Additionally, I see that until the final report, they have to issue quarterly reports to this board, either via memo or coming before us.
Right, and the reasoning for that is that if it's determined that we want to move forward, there's grants that are available, but it has to be what's considered an active committee, and the only way to do that is when we have comprehensive written reports that we can submit.
Yep.
The state doesn't watch our videos.
They don't? We should
Hard as we
send
try.
them all to
Our
them.
ratings are so
Who's
great.
the guy from Alabama who watched?
Right, well, but he doesn't work for the state, so, that I'm aware of.
Maybe he works for the state of Alabama.
He could.
Which doesn't help us very much, but, all right, any questions for Kate on this before we review next steps? Yes, Mr. Ellis.
So, two, first, if the chair will humor me, I'd just like to read the majority of the background admission. I think it's really important.
The majority of the what again?
Of the background admission that's in the documentation. So the mission of the committee is to provide for the thoughtful and public examination of issues which surround Lancaster's taxation, including the fair allocation of tax burdens and obligations for residents. The committee will work to explore potential alternatives to property taxation and how Lancaster, specifically, may reduce its reliance on residential property tax, particularly for seniors and/or those with fixed income and/or assets. I'm super passionate about that charge. I think that there's a lot of opportunity in front of us, and I'm just excited for it, which leads me to my second point, which is an actual question.
Oh.
So, Kate and/or Mr. Chair, trying to find some nice words here. If we have some lessons learned maybe from the government study committee, I think we would probably prefer maybe it's moving a little faster,
Yes.
right?
I think the
don't wanna-
government study committee would prefer us moving faster.
Right, so what I want to pose is a conversation about, you know, if things aren't working out with the membership of this committee, what opportunities does the select board have to make adjustments to the membership of the committee to attempt to facilitate faster moving? Like, I'm not looking to be volatile on the committee, but, you know, if somebody has all of the right intentions of why they joined, but then they can't make meetings, you know, we should have a conversation about how to further that along, because the people who suffer from this not making progress are the residents who are most in need of that help. So I just wanted to ask that question.
What was the question?
So
Is there
I-
a tool for taking people off?
Yeah, I
the committee?
believe, I don't remember the exact specifics, but I did research a while ago about, like, I think you can't just, I'm just gonna talk on what I think I know, is that the select board can't just remove somebody from an appointed committee. There has to be, like, significant reason. My question is, can we say something today that, like, hey, you know, we will make adjustments if things aren't working out?
So you can have a document that's called the organization of the board or the organization of the committee, and it's sort of like a letters of incorporation, separate from this, but you could even attach it as an appendix. And most of those say, if you've missed 3 meetings in a row, unexcused,
You forfeit your.
you know, then the chair will bring that to
So I'd like to make a
whoever the
motion
appointing
to
authority.
authorize the town administrator to put together a proposal for what.
I walked right into that one.
You sure
what
did.
what is it called? The letters of incorporation?
Yeah, well, we,
It's something similar.
yeah, it would be similar to that.
So that's my motion.
Okay.
Seconded because I,
All right, and then I'm assuming there's discussion. Okay. Moved and seconded, discussion.
so, you're right, especially on smaller committees. If you don't have consistent attendance, it can certainly bog down the works of an important and vital committee. We, years ago, I think there is something on the board about that applies to all committees. I can look for that if it is, but because we did have problems with people who were not attending. So it would be great if it doesn't exist and we can't find it, then it'd be great to do that. But I think that should be true with, that's something that we should apply to all boards. And there's legitimate reasons why people can't come to meetings. So in the past, or at least the way I recall, it was at the discretion of the board and the chair. The board and the chair would vote, the board that it applied to would vote. For example, if somebody was out of the country or ill, or just the meetings fell on a bad day, that they wouldn't automatically be removed if they missed 3 meetings. There was some discretion to that, and they would petition our board to remove them. But the intention is really important, and it's good. I think it exists, but we can look at that.
Okay. So there's a motion and second to create said document for members of this committee.
Or find the,
Well, his motion is to create a
Proposal for us to review.
Yeah. Proposal.
I haven't seen it, so if you
So if by the time it comes for review, we discover it someplace else, then we don't have to do it.
right.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner, Mr. Allison, Mr. Kerrigan, aye.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Anything further?
Yeah, I also supported this. I think it's a great committee. I want to be clear with people that this committee recommends back to us, and then it has to go through the legislative process at home rule. So people should not expect any changes in our taxing programs this year or even next year.
Right.
It will be a couple of years at best before something happens. The other thing is, not in what we presented at town meeting, but in the memo, Kate, that you attached, which is thoughtful, I would caution that there is an asset test in there, and many communities have removed that because it's really difficult, and there's some really bona fide reasons why assets are difficult to deal with. So I'm assuming this memo is sort of a general idea for people. It's not part of
So I don't know which communities removed it, but it's a requirement to have an asset to get state circuit breaker funds.
Have an asset
You have an
The circuit
asset
breaker.
requirement.
Well, the circuit breaker was the other
Well,
one I was
then
going to
that-
talk about, because get the circuit breaker for the senior part, to apply for the circuit breaker, you have to be over 65 and within certain income limits.
Well, right, so this is the legislature will only accept this thus far if we adopt the circuit breaker. I mean, we can tweak it a little, but we have to, it piggybacks off of that.
Well, there are many people in town who take the circuit breaker. I mean, it's a state tax credit.
Right, I know,
it's
but
all-
it has parameters, and that's what I'm saying, is this is,
Right.
communities can adopt this in addition to, but we can't
Right.
pick and choose the parameters, their requirements for this
I
program.
understand what the circuit breaker does. I
No,
just
for the
didn't-
senior means testing.
Okay,
It's a legislative requirement to
Okay.
have an
Don't have the
asset. Yeah.
Okay.
They don't have to be as strict as what the
Yes.
circuit breaker is, but there needs to be an asset limitation.
So,
Because people
Right.
may take advantage, I'm not saying that they would, but some
No, no,
people
no.
do, so.
we did, when we were doing the senior tax abatement in town, the requirements have changed over time from being asset tested and not asset tested. And some of the things, for example, what happens if somebody had a great stock portfolio? Well, it's probably going to show up in their taxes and put them out of contention to get it. But there are some people who are house rich. I'm house rich but poor because they pay all their taxes on property, but they don't have others. So we can talk about this. This part is what we're voting on, right?
We're just, I'm not even sure.
We're voting-
voting on the charge and the process
The
for,
responsibilities, so on.
that's the charge.
The other thing is, this is one of the only committees that we have, and I just was asking why. This is the only committee that I can think of like this, like the MOU and affordable housing and government study and so on, that doesn't have membership from this board or a representative. And certainly I want to make sure that
I'm
this
perfectly
committee
fine with that.
stays. Well,
Something stopping one member of this board from,
yeah,
could be an at-large
I just want to
member.
make sure this, like you, we're all passionate about this, getting this going, so it's a great way to report back too.
So I would just caution that was purposeful, because if a senior means tested tax exemption program comes forward, it would be a select board article. So it would be a select board orchestrated article, and essentially the select board overseeing, or at least delegating the authority to oversee the staff who are implementing that to the town administrator. So you want to keep those separate, would be my suggestion.
I mean,
Which doesn't mean that you can't have input, but as far as like a voting, that is, it would be a problem.
And we do, I mean, we'll have a significant input in this, in that they're gonna be giving us quarterly reports, and the final report that we adopt or not adopt. I'm sometimes concerned about how many things that the three of us have to sit on, and would love to provide more opportunities to the general public to sit on things, but I definitely hear what you're saying.
It's not a deal breaker for me, it's just not consistent with some of the other things, and I think it would be helpful for the reporting that we talked about, me being inactive and so on. We can always have people come in, especially if it's only quarterly. But it's something that this board, has spoken strongly and passionately about, so it seemed to make sense. But I can go either way.
Okay. All right, do we want to take, let's do charge vote, appointment structure vote, and then we can just discuss with you, Kate, the process for letters of interest, yes? We don't have to vote on
So
that.
are you changing, is there anything?
I move to approve the charge for the Tax Fairness Committee.
The charge being the document
It's,
that's written, Tax Fairness Committee memo, or not, excuse me.
dated May 2023.
May 2023.
Yep. As written in our packet on
Yeah.
page 18.
And second?
Okay, very good. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I move to approve the appointments, is that a section or?
It's member requirements and expectations.
I move to approve the membership appointments for the Tax Fairness Committee as documented in the May
Page 18.
2023.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
For the same reason that Kate just articulated and stuff, I don't know, I think I would suggest that the Board of Assessors, who does a good job and will be reviewing the abatements, should not be doing the policy side of it, because it is they will be reviewing it for order and compliance when they are submitted. But I think the other members are. Membership is
Is it
good.
a typical, I'm assuming this is mirrored after the typical structure that other communities have done with their tax fairness committees?
It's mirrored after one that I worked on before. Just because generally speaking, the assessors are the subject matter experts relative to not only taxation, but how things are assessed and then the abatement process. So, I mean,
They definitely are. They're usually
I'm good enough to know
advisors.
what I can and can't do, and that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I expect you or the assessors and someone would support this as subject matter experts, but I think that if they're reviewing the actual applications and so on, they should be doing that with a fresh eye.
But this is just to bring forward
Yeah, it's just the
something.
policy.
This wouldn't be
Okay.
to review.
Okay, alrighty. That's fine.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Allison? Mr. Carrick? Now, we are on to determine process for letters of interest and
I
appointment.
move to approve the process for letters of interest and appointment for the Tax Fairness Committee as documented in the May 2023. Is that satisfactory?
I think it was in the memo, but
It's in the memo. yeah.
So I just need you to just tell me when
Dated March
you
10th,
want
2023.
those letters of interest or committee recommendations.
How soon can we advertise?
I mean, I can advertise tomorrow.
So if we advertise tomorrow, then typically we give people about a month, right?
Whatever you think is best.
So give them
Skip.
to
Maybe your second June meeting,
Yeah,
so not the 5th, but whatever that next one is.
19th.
Sounds good.
And ideally, I think best practice is, and I would like to see if people submit interest, and I'm hoping a lot of people do, I think they will, is to come in and just talk to us about their application.
Yeah.
Or via
I'm
Zoom.
okay for a talk. I don't think we should be interviewing and asking questions and having deliberation and all that stuff. If people want to talk, that's good, but like an interview process.
Well, and if we have 6 people, we're gonna have to pick 4 of them.
Yeah, but
You're
not
talking
like-
for the at-large,
Yeah.
not for the ones
Not for
that
the
are-
ones recommended by the
But
other.
not the same process that Kate is using for our building commissioner.
No,
Interviews, second round, then 90 days later, then we're deciding.
no.
But I found that.
90 days?
She's gonna move a lot
Yeah,
faster.
come on.
90 minutes.
I think people who are applying usually find that very helpful to know and have an interchange with us about what we expect,
Yeah.
talk about that kind of thing. And
And then we'll have to narrow the pool.
yes,
Yeah.
and
If
hopefully,
there's- Hopefully there's more, hopefully we have to narrow the pool.
yes,
It's not
I would
just
say
4
hopefully we
people.
have so many that we have to choose.
But when we invite them in, I think there should be an expectation that we determine it that night.
At that meeting.
Yeah, that we'll have their materials well in advance. We'll have a chance to ask them questions, and then I think we owe them and the community quick response, so we would appoint them that evening.
Again, it's my understanding that individual board members can reach out to individual residents and ask questions ahead of time.
Oh, sure, yeah, once we
Yeah.
know they're of interest, yeah.
Talk to Kate or anybody.
Yeah.
Let's get all that, let's
Absolutely.
get this moving.
So,
We need a
is that
motion for
clear,
Kate?
Kate?
It is, no, I don't think you need one unless you want one. I
No.
get it. So
Fantastic.
at
June
that,
19th.
we'll shoot for that meeting and to have people send their
stuff in
things
sooner.
ahead of time, but then be present
Yes,
for a conversation.
indeed. Just want to make sure we're saying the date right, June 19th, yes.
So a week, so that's
It's Juneteenth. Oh, is the town hall closed
Juneteenth, right?
for Juneteenth?
Yeah, state holiday,
Yeah.
should be.
So then the
Yes.
meeting,
So then it would be the 20th. And are you gonna do, remember, sometimes if it's a Monday holiday,
I need to meet that week.
It's either move forward one day or sometime to the next week. But
yeah, what did you just say? You needed to
I need to meet that week.
You need to meet that week. Okay. Well, I will say this, if we keep, that is the only item on the agenda for the 9th, like, we're able to get a lot of stuff done on the 5th and then the early meeting in July. We could do like a noontime meeting, couldn't we?
might be hard to get people who are
Oh,
serving
people.
on a committee,
Right,
yeah. But why don't we move it out to the one in July then? Because that's going to give people a full month to apply anyway. If it,
So that would be July the 3rd,
I won't be available.
yeah. July the 10th,
Maybe.
I won't be available for that. July the 5th is terrible.
I don't think we're gonna need 30
Why don't we
days.
work on, why don't we get some dates to Kate and we'll go from there.
it's less clear now.
Yes, and we were crystal clear until we realized
Either
there
we're
was a
gonna get a dozen
holiday.
applicants or we're gonna get none, right?
So let's, I asked my colleagues to submit to Kate and myself dates that you're available for second June meeting.
the days that you're not available.
Or yeah, or by elimination.
Whichever is
Or by
less.
elimination,
Yeah,
dates you
yeah.
aren't available for it. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Tax Fairness Committee discussion. Now on to personnel bylaw, next steps, review and accept policies and procedures.
Yes.
As we all know, we saw this in February, then it went before the town meeting. Kate, can you take us through what?
Yes,
is
so
needed in
the
this discussion?
town meeting article struck chapter 140 in its entirety from the town code, replacing it with the general bylaw text. But what needs to come now is a personnel policy document, which would be under the board. And essentially, this will cover everything to do with employment in town, including how vacation is accrued, how sick time is accrued, what policies and procedures are in place for cessation of smoking, drug and alcohol policy, sexual harassment, longevity, employee performance reviews, that wasn't captured in the old code. So I had sent this to you in February, but then I sent it again on the 10th of March. And really not a whole lot has changed since then, except for that I worked in the hiring policies and procedures that we had done earlier, because I think that we didn't have a uniform way of hiring, and that leaves us open to some liabilities. Even if everything is done properly, if you don't have a policy or procedure in place, someone can claim that they weren't afforded the same opportunity as someone else. So it really is incumbent upon us to have better policies and procedures. So that's what's here. There's samples of the new clerical and managerial evaluations. There is language in here about self-evaluations that should be done. There's language in here about family medical leave and other types of protected leave. There's information about the employee assistance program and work-life balance. So I can't promise that this is not going to be added to later, but everything that I could conceivably think of is in here. And as matters come up, it can be brought to your attention, and then we just add another section or two.
Yeah, no, I was scrolling through to find, I think I skipped past it, but, what I love about it is that how comprehensive this is, particularly the self-assessment and other things. I think it's very helpful to have in one place.
Yes.
And you gotta mute. Questions?
Sure.
So first, I think it's, was well overdue, and it's a very good, excellent document with a lot of specificity, which was lacking. I will say that when you were interviewing Kate, one of the advantages, the clear advantages I saw was your expertise in personnel and HR, which was attractive to us because we had been having, as most people know, a consultant who's doing this. So it's nice to have the expertise in-house. I think it'll be good for people. And limbo, which there was a lot of vagaries in the past one, including not having a uniformed evaluation forms and so on. And so I think these are excellent. I personally would like to look at it, although I could be saying, I looked at it. I was at the meeting, but I have looked at it. I missed the meeting when we first talked about it initially. It was my meeting out. But some towns that I know and admire the way they work incorporate a personnel board, which I think would be helpful for this in the case of discipline. And also for review of policies. A lot of towns do review of policies periodically with, in this case, the person who's in charge of HR, which is Kate, as a citizen policy committee as advisors. So I think that's something that I'd like to see incorporated. So
you'd like to see a citizen advisory committee incorporated?
yeah, like a personnel committee, which is what we had in the past, but they were doing most everything with consultants in the past, and then we went to a model where we didn't fill the personnel committee and it lay fallow, and we hired a personnel consultant who essentially served as staff. And now we've had both extremes. I think that marrying those two, Kate this is a great document, and Kate has the professional expertise. So I think that would be helpful, particularly in times when, as the personnel director and a supervisor, it can be challenging. So it would be, I think that's where a personnel committee, and what I would propose to do is to work with Kate on how, if she thinks it's valuable, to see how it could be incorporated into this, or not.
Well, so I think what I heard Kate saying is that this is not things likely could be added to this over time.
Yes.
What I wouldn't want to do is wait on this to then determine whether or not we want it to, because I feel like that's going to be a longer process. I also think it's probably something that should be considered by either a charter commission or the group that follows, should the government study committee want to reshape things. But to me, this seems to be a fantastic set of organized principles and ideas and forms and policies around personnel. And so I am not 100% convinced that we need the personnel board. I also don't think we need to, and I see your hand, so I'll come to you in a second. I don't want to hold this up. We definitely can have that debate and discussion. I just don't want to hold this up waiting for that.
That's fine. Can we, just to follow back up on that, can we agree to have that discussion, past this, have that discussion soon in a timely fashion after we've had a chance to look at some?
I'm glad to do that, as long as, if you're proposing something, that you come with something.
Yeah, no.
That we don't just
understand
talk
that.
about
No,
it
I
in the
have
ether.
other samples and stuff, but I prefer to talk about them with Kate because this is falling to her.
Right.
I respectfully disagree. So this is a sore spot for me. I would really rather not rehash the history of how we got to where we're at today. So in an attempt to not do that, I've been reading through this since it came out in February. I'm super excited about it. The voters have spoken at town meeting. This is what they want. And I am vehemently in favor of this moving forward ASAP.
Yeah, I think it was unanimous, including all of us, but the details were to be determined here, so that was the...
Right.
Kate has my utmost confidence that she will get it right, and when we've determined that it needs to be fixed or changed, we will make those changes. So I would like to move to...
Well, so before I entertain your motion, I would just say, I think we all want to make sure it gets done right. And my only argument is just, let's move this ball forward. If everything is a living document in essence, and if we want to bring suggestions for changes later, we're certainly open to
No,
it.
that's fine.
Yeah.
You said you were open to
Yeah.
reviewing it quickly if there was, reason to do so. So.
Right. Sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the personnel bylaw, policies and procedures as outlined in the packet.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Kerrigan, aye. 300. Go forth and bylaw.
Just as a reminder, that will be in effect starting June 1st.
June 1st.
So between now and June 1st, it's still the code, even though the code was
Copy that.
stricken.
Copy that.
But I'm ever hopeful we won't need any
We
of
won't
that.
have much
It'll
going on
just
the
be
next.
smooth
Everybody
sailing
just
until
behave
June
themselves
1st.
between now and June 1st, okay.
Is it June 1st or the fiscal year? Is it June 1st?
It's June, because what happens for personnel is that happens and goes into effect immediately upon its action at town meeting. But because this document had not been voted upon, I did not want to be in a situation where we had nothing, and
Right.
then
No, that makes sense.
we just had to guess.
All right, review high school building project timeline. Kate?
Yes, I had that written somewhere. Okay. So I am hopeful now that we're through all three town meetings from the Neshoba district that we can maybe start to have more regularity of someone from the superintendent's office coming in, because I have to say, as a parent, I'm generally aware of the communications that have come home regarding the high school, but as an administrator and trying to put that out there, I don't have a ton. And so I think it will be helpful to make sure that the school has enough ability to talk to everybody in town, so they're able to make a informed decision. But as far as the timeline, I just thought it was important because it's pretty specific with timetables once we get to the point where the building committee makes a decision. So the building committee will need to vote to recommend the scope and the budget to MSBA, so the Massachusetts School Building Association, by mid-June. And that's coming up quickly. And so then the school committee, after that is passed in and they say, basically, this is how much we want to spend and this is what that's gonna buy us. The school committee would then have to vote to approve the scope and the budget. So that's a separate vote. So that has to happen right around the 21st of June. Then between July 10th and the 20th, so mid-July, the MSBA reviews the whole scope and budget with the district at meetings where people can attend, make comments, etc. And then the MSBA has to give their board approval by the end of August. So the reason that's important is because the district has to secure funding within 120 days of MSBA's approval. So if MSBA is approving sometime at the end of August, there's just 120 days to be able to have a town meeting, have a ballot, and have favorable action in a majority. Maybe that won't be a hard thing, maybe it will be a hard thing,
Majority.
I don't know.
The first vote is required to be unanimous.
Right.
Of the towns.
Of the towns,
Of the
yeah.
towns.
So the school committee has to vote to incur the debt, and they need to do that at the end of June. And then the school committee has to notify the board, so they would have to notify Lancaster Select Board, Stowe, and Bolton's within 7 days of that vote, so basically the following week. And then, once the select board is notified, then the select board has 60 days to call the vote. So that would be a special town meeting, which we know we can call within 14, but it can't be more than 60.
So if we get it June 28th, we've got till August 28th to do.
No, it's from MSBA approval in August, right?
So,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
So the timeline, if I'm working this backwards, has, providing that MSBA says, yes, go ahead, and that the school committee votes to incur the debt, we would be looking at a special town meeting between the 16th of September and the 23rd of September. And so Bolton and Stowe, ideally, Stowe was looking at Saturday, the 16th, Bolton was looking at the 18th.
Sorry, can you explain that timeline again for me?
Yep, so the building committee votes to recommend the budget to MSBA in mid-June.
Right.
Then the school committee votes to approve the budget on or about the 20th of June. Then MSBA is reviewing with the district and they have a finalized, whatever it's gonna be, around the end of July, about the 20th of July.
Oh, I thought you said the end of August, sorry.
So the district has to secure funding within 120 days of that approval. So what the school committee will do is they will have a vote to incur the debt, probably sometime around that July, August, and then notify you all and the other two select boards within 7 days. And once they notify, then we have 60 days to call the vote.
Yeah, okay. I was a month ahead in my mind, so.
So-
got it.
Well, it's good then.
So, it is good. And you were saying other towns are already looking at specific dates?
Yes, so Bolton was looking at somewhere around Monday, 9/18. And Stowe was looking at Saturday, 9/16, but I believe that there is a Jewish holiday in there.
Yeah, probably Rosh Hashanah.
And Stowe has historically only done Saturday meetings, and so I think that she needs to go back and have a conversation with them about entertaining a school day, because their polling place is the school, which is why it gets a little sticky there. And so what happens is that then Stowe has to cancel school, and then, of course, the district has to, and it's become a whole thing, so.
So when Steve's looking at the calendar, my understanding, speaking with,
I'll acknowledge. There you go, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. what
That's
did-
okay, no, I was gonna ask if people had questions after I was done my questions.
Oh,
but go
sorry, I
ahead.
thought we
But
were
you go
looking at
ahead.
the, no, I'm sorry.
No, no,
You
go
were
right
looking
ahead.
at the calendar, I didn't want
Go
to
right
pressure you.
ahead. Knock your
Okay.
socks off.
My understanding in speaking with the superintendent, I think he said at town meeting too, that we could expect preliminary costs, sort of an idea, because there's been lots of speculation at the end of this month, end of May. Formal voting will be, is it June, right? And then there's the complication, so if we'll have a town meeting, which it passes, then it has to pass if it fails at town meeting, it goes to a ballot, they are going to take the other approach, that they don't have to, but they're allowed to go to the ballot in Neshoba, an election there, which they pay for.
Correct, they pay for that.
Before I just want to see if anybody had questions up until when we had to have a town meeting. Because I definitely want to go through that in great detail. Do you have any questions about up until town meeting?
No, except, well, yes.
Hold on
Well,
2 seconds.
so just so you know, the school committee has said that they're due to give us the final scope and budget on the 21st of June. I'd be psyched if they had it by May, but I'm not getting that
Yeah,
vibe.
no, I was
So,
So we
saying
wouldn't
sort
want
of a
folks to
general
expect that.
cost, but they were going to be doing some tweaking, but yeah, there's been
Yeah.
a wild speculation about how much it's going to be.
So, do you have any questions up until town meeting? And then I want to talk about the process if town
I
meeting
have
goes awry.
a question, I don't know if this is the time or not, about how we respond to other issues, since we'll be scheduling a town meeting, when
Oh,
we
what do
do
you mean,
our,
other?
for example, if we're having a town meeting, I'm assuming that we're going to be entertaining those planning board
Oh,
issues,
yeah,
things
yeah,
and
that's,
Okay.
if it's a special town meeting and there's Christmas tree ornaments we can throw on the warrant.
We'll open
We'll do a
up.
few if there are any that need to be done. If they need to be done. But if they don't need to be done, then they don't need to be done. All right, so town meeting we will look at and, are you suggesting that we'd like to try to have it on the same day? Is that what you're thinking?
I think Neshoba asked at our last, tri-town meeting to have it on the same day, and it was a resounding, that's pretty much impossible.
We're going to try to meeting.
Oh, I meant for the
For the
administrators.
administrators.
Because Bolton has said that they only do it on Mondays, and Stowe had said, well, we only do it on Saturdays, and I said, I don't know.
Well, Lancaster only.
So, and neither of the two communities, so it sort of was good for us, because I just said, well, it doesn't really matter, because if you all can't.
Right, we're not gonna be the one who ruins the perfect streak of all three on the same day. They seem to have done that to themselves already.
So counting back, so you make ours, you said they have 120 days from the MSBA approval, right? They have 120 days out, including the second election if they need it. So that backing that in would tell us sort of when we have to be, which is September, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if the other two towns are circling around my birthday, 17th, if they're right around that area.
Mark your calendars.
I know, yeah, tell everybody. Then I think
Yeah,
we should be in that range, the 18th or something like that. But
Yeah, so Monday, the 18th is what Bolton was looking for. Now, historically, we've had our town meeting, our annual,
Right.
the same day. It was only because Shirley had claimed it.
Sterling. I'd say.
Sterling, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
Other
there's
S
10.
town.
So if in fact a ballot is needed, this allows us the ability to do that in the first week of October.
Okay, so that's what takes me to, so town meetings, let's just assume we line up with Bolton on the 18th. We do not get all three towns unanimously approving it. We go to a ballot, which we call, I'm assuming immediately right after we know we don't have all three.
We don't call it, they call it, right?
I was using the generic way.
sorry.
Let me just ask the question. So then, can you take us through what happens if we don't get unanimity at the three town meetings?
Right, so then the school committee would call a meeting. They would vote to have a ballot election. It does have to it will come back to you all for the scheduling.
Right.
And then we would do it like any other special election.
Got it.
So,
And would we attempt to try to do it on the same day, I would assume? And that is an aggregate of votes, yes?
yes, it's a.
So if 3,000 people vote in Lancaster, I mean, all of those votes are added together as if they're one big, large community.
Right.
And if there's 51% of that one, we could vote overwhelmingly no, and they could both vote overwhelmingly yes, and it still passes.
Right, it's a one-for-one type of situation. So we could do it on the same day, that it might be easier for people who are anxious to see what the results are.
Right.
I mean, there's two schools of thought, right? Because then the other one is, some towns may say, oh, well, I feel better, so should this community say.
We don't want to be last, because then all the other towns are going to be coming to our doorsteps, go and vote.
So now I'm getting confused myself. At our election or polling place, It's the simple majorities, right?
It's my understanding is that you take all the yeses in Lancaster, pile them together with all the yeses in Bolton and all the yeses in Stowe. If like 12,000 people
No, I
vote between,
get that,
let me
yeah.
just, 12,000 people vote between the entirety of those three communities, it's a majority of that number.
Right.
It's not, it failed in Lancaster, it failed in Bolton.
Okay,
It's the
I-
majority of that overall votes cast, right?
Right. I know that the vote to be held at Neshoba in the district is just a simple majority. I just thought it was a little different here. So I could be, I don't even listen to me because
It would be as if for one day only, Lancaster, Bolton, and Stowe are all one town.
So the majority of that overall.
Three different polling places in three different towns.
Okay.
Okay,
But yes, they pay for that, which is good.
Which is
because
nice.
we did not budget for that.
That's
Which
the
is
second
fantastic.
election, but the other,
They do not pay
They don't pay for the
they
town
don't pay for the town meeting, just the ballot election. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
all right.
So there's nothing really to do, other than I just think that's important timing, and I would very much like to request that they come in and
Yeah, so if we
start-
can try to get them
I think they
in early
wanted to,
June.
yeah.
Yeah, I spoke with the superintendent, and I spoke with Ken Farmer, who's our Lancaster person on the building committee. So we should try to get them in at our early June meeting, if possible.
the numbers that we ran before, and I don't even know if we want to go down that road.
Yeah, I
but-
think let's keep this to the project timeline, and then we can talk about other
Well, what
stuff.
I was gonna say is they wouldn't even be accurate anymore, because now when we ran this, it was with the other tax rate, so now our tax rate, although it's still lower than it was. But
Right.
once we get the final numbers, we'll bring forward sort of a listing of what it might be taxing
The sort of
that way.
analysis of-
And this would be excluded debt, so
Yes.
it doesn't go into the ceiling, doesn't contribute.
It's not forever, but it's 30 years,
But
I
it's
think,
for-
is what they're
yeah.
looking to bond.
Yes.
Right, but I know, but it doesn't increase our capacity, which is a good thing,
Right.
so,
Once it goes away, it goes away.
right.
Just like the other school project just
Well,
fell
and
off.
my question was also, which I need to get answered, and I haven't yet, is does the old high school debt go away? Because that high school will be gone.
Yeah, will be destroyed, no.
So is it like when
We
you
still have to
remodel
pay-
your
We
house?
still have to pay our
and-
bills,
still
I
have
think,
to pay
related
for
to the
it.
construction that we did 20 years
The
ago.
question is whether that,
I think that bond's about it.
I think it probably is, because it was
So
about
it's like 30
20-something
years.
years ago. Yeah.
Nah,
Weird how it's
Yeah.
just coinciding.
The renovation was about,
I think the renovation was like, time flies, but I'm gonna say 12 years, I don't know, who knows?
no.
We'll ask,
It was
we'll
when,
ask
it
them.
was, we discussed it when I last served on the board, which I left the board in '01. It wasn't approved or happening, but I felt it was about 20 years ago from now, but maybe I'm wrong.
I
You're
want
just
to,
checking the magic book.
But also, it's not a project timeline we're working on, so it's something from 20 years ago. So, thank you. My colleagues and I will get you our dates for June meetings, so we can get something set for that. For both the tax fairness
Yes.
interviews, and if the superintendent can't make the early June meeting, we can schedule them for the later one. All right, fantastic. Next item up for bid is review approved capital projects. And then we have the 40B application, and then we have a ton of appointments and licenses and permits. I'm sure everyone is in this room waiting desperately to talk about, although Dave Clark's here, I think he actually is here to talk about, to advocate for his licenses and permits, so. Kate, take us away on the capital plan.
well, so we've had a busy week.
Yes.
Let's see, so we have the mailing for the Commission on Disabilities preparedness book. There's some money in here that was for another cruiser, cameras for the campus that are cloud-based so that they can be accessed by the police department and dispatch, which is, we're part of Neshoba Valley Dispatch. We have $30,000, which is, it seems like a lot, but it's a small amount, for some records that were over in the old town hall, and it's flooded over there, and so we need them restored because they're,
Are they being restored or digitized, or both?
well, both. We have some money for shade tree, $250,000 for library windows, the IT infrastructure. We're putting money aside for the master plan as part of this. The building department vehicle finally kicked the bed, so.
Kick the bed? I think it kicked the bucket.
That too.
Who kicks a bed?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know,
Yeah.
a bucket, whatever, it died. It's out there, may it rest in peace.
Folks at home, don't kick your bed, it may die.
The school needs $161,000 for HVAC.
Yeah.
They need $225,000 for their sprinkler and fire alarm maintenance, so that's a big one. And then, let's see, an oil pump and heating fuel set for the new boilers, and carpets in the office and the library for $60,000. There was $50,000 that was in here to study a plan or permit for a public safety complex. In speaking with the chiefs, I took the unpopular route that I think, given that the school is coming forward, the library needs renovations, that we have the old town hall, that I thought that I was not going to be supportive of spending that right now. Not that I don't think that that's worth it, but it just seems like even if everybody in the town wanted to have a public safety complex, it would be many, many years from now.
Right.
And whatever study we did likely wouldn't be relevant.
Right.
So we have that $50,000
Okay.
that's still available.
That's good.
And so that leaves us,
But we had like $3 million worth of projects that we didn't touch, right? Wasn't it some
well,
crazy
yes,
money?
yeah.
So it's not as if the 50,000 is just lingering there.
No,
We
no,
don't
no.
need- There's plenty of needs.
So when we went through this, we went through and ticked off quite a few, and there was still $1,130,750. So at some point,
In need.
in
Or-
need,
yeah.
right? So at some point, I'm gonna need to come back to get some more.
Approval for projects.
Which project rises to the top, which
Got
one
it.
doesn't?
Got it.
Because that's what we did to get here.
Right.
And we have probably about 300 to 400,000 remaining. Some of the things that were in here, the prices went up, like gutters, for example, for this building. They were going to be 6,500, now they're 7,500, so there's some changes back and forth with that. The
So
good
you-
news is that the police cruiser stayed the same,
Oh, that's good.
so we had budgeted that, so that.
So you're saying
was-
there's about $300,000 or $400,000 left in resources and 1.1 million left in need?
Right, so at some point, sooner than later.
Sounds about right.
That needs to be
Yeah.
a conversation with the board and I don't know, finance committee, whatever.
Sure.
so.
All right. I have no further questions on this. I appreciate us sticking to the plan that we had and taking those things off, so that's fantastic. Do my colleagues have any questions? No questions? Any questions?
I do, yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So this is being funded with ARPA. So I know we said this was not,
Yep.
this is not levy, this is ARPA, or free cash or anything like that. It's, we received $2.4 million initially, and we spent some on a police cruiser, an ambulance, and what else took a?
A boiler, right?
The
Two boilers.
The two boilers
We had
at the school.
2,047,000 left, I think, somewhere in that range.
Right.
There's a memo that I
Yeah,
wrote.
yeah.
Right.
That's where I got that information.
Okay.
And so when we were talking about, we were leading up to the override, we talked about the availability of funds and so on. It was the majority of the board's decision that we would use this on one-time capital while it can be used to defray budgets, that was not the will. So we are using it for one-time issues. These other things that we've talked about, and Kate has presented to us in the budget book, and we've talked about it, I remember we talked about it at February 27th, and I went through all the days that we talked about it, because I know there's been a lot of, well, Alex, you voted on that. And so I went through all the minutes and all the meetings, and I didn't see a vote. I could have missed it, so I stand to be corrected. But at any rate, from where we stand right now, all the things that Kate just read off and we've talked about certainly have merit. There's nothing in the whole plan that doesn't have merit, including the millions that we're not funding because we don't have time.
What's not that we don't have time, we don't have money.
Money, I'm sorry, yes, time, money, yeah, it's money in this case. I personally think that this is a time that we should, there are things that did not make it into the capital plan, and they've talked to people on the finance committee and other things. Some towns have had have had a very broad, inclusive approach to talking about this. We've done it mostly here, and we had a consultant that we've hired, actually we hired a couple of consultants, so it's still, well,
Go
no,
ahead,
yeah.
but I just want to correct the record on a couple things.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just jot them down there. So I would still like to see what the consultants did and see their plan that would be. I know I talked about that last August, and I know it's been busy. So I would like to see us just put a hold on this personally, and I expect that that these things will still be funded, a lot of them, but
You want to put a hold on
I would like
all
to.
these capital projects?
With ones we've committed to, the police cruiser, the ambulance, the other things like that, that were issued were
Right.
in red ink, as in we already committed to them. I would like to
Okay.
keep the ones that we've talked about here, that in general we have not
Well,
approved. Oh, I'm
Yep,
sorry,
yep,
hold on,
no,
I know
no.
you're dying to say.
well, just,
Because I would like to include the finance committee, even though they're advisory, I think it's important that they do that, and I'd like to include a citizen panel. There's towns like
okay.
Groton, for example, did a really nice one, and there's been any other towns who have had some sort of survey and input. For my example, for example, something that didn't get done, but I think is critical, is the old town hall, which because of, in fact, we renovated this building in part, because that was leaking so badly. I think based on contractors that I've shown and looked at in my experience in building, the foundation is, and this corner is in jeopardy, and we just don't have enough money to do everything.
Right.
So I think looking at those things and with that comprehensive lens would be
So,
really important.
understood. So I would just, first, I think the old town hall would take all of the ARPA money times 2 to renovate it, but that's fine.
Not a full renovation, I'm
Yeah.
just talking about triage.
So I want to be very clear and point out that we've been talking about this capital plan since August, maybe?
Yep.
We had that very extensive meeting with the Finance Committee, I think in this very room.
It
where we
was.
And I
went
sent
over-
you the vote.
So, but I want to be very,
Yeah, and I didn't.
reclaiming my time, sorry.
Sorry.
So I just want the residents to understand that the suggestion was made that we didn't include the finance committee, they were included every step of the way. So with your suggestion that we should include them now, they've been included every step of the way in this process. We've approved this as part of the overall funding for the town. And I think these projects have been in this plan for a very long time. So I consider them things that we've agreed were a priority. So my suggestion to my colleagues would be to vote to approve all of the projects as presented. As presented because they're in our current plan that
You
we've
don't
had
have
for a
to
long time.
approve it because
No,
you
it's
did.
fine, yeah.
I sent you the vote.
Yes, okay.
All right, so, yes.
Hold on, you've
Yeah,
had time.
so I feel like we did a really good, great, transparent process since August. It's in the big book, it's been documented for everyone to see. We've talked about what we want to do using ARPA money for capital improvements and one-time dollars for, what was it, one-time dollars, one-time purchases?
One-time dollars, one-time items.
That
yes.
is.
Right, so I feel like that's great. I can appreciate having a prioritization conversation, but I don't believe Ms. Turner has brought forth any specific thing she wants funding, just, let's slow down, my words, let's slow down the process. I feel like now is the time that we've had the vote at town meeting, that the residents have spoken, and it's time to invest this ARPA money in dire improvements that are needed in the town from a capital perspective. So I'm all for moving forward with everything that we've already agreed upon, that I believe that we're already going forward with.
And I would just say, I do think we have already prioritized, because there were millions in requests for all well-meaning projects.
I'm not saying we didn't.
No, I want, you had mentioned the word prioritization. These things were already prioritized over other things because of their importance to.
But if something came up, if there was a new specific thing that came up and somebody wanted to make a case for it, I could appreciate that.
Yes.
But that's not what I'm hearing today. What I'm hearing today is
Copy.
let's figure more things out.
Copy. All right. Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Ms.
So
Turner.
I did go over the vote. It was votes, and I went over the requests. For example, I was pointing to August 16th, and that was the day that I had asked for the report from the consultants. And then, and that was a day that we just got, that I requested that. February 27th was the date where we had the meeting with here in this room. And I listened to the tape. In fairness, it's hard to hear because there was a lot of cross-speaking and so on. But my understanding from Mr. Trussell, who was sitting in this chair, and myself, was that we were going to keep this to, and it says the operating budget, we've always referred to that as a capital plan. That I don't believe we've ever.
It doesn't say that. I sent you the vote.
I
It says,
read it. You can
Mr.
read it.
Allison moved to approve the fiscal year 2024 town budget as proposed.
Right.
Mr. Trussell asked how soon it would be public information. I said there was a few things I needed to correct. Ms. Turner seconded the motion. Ms. Turner verified with Ms. Hodges that the only staff addition would be a part-time analyst. The groups thanked, blah, blah, blah. Vote taken. Alexander Turner, aye. Jason Allison, aye. Stephen Kerrigan, aye. Motion passed. Ms. Vasquez moved to approve the fiscal year budget. Presented. Mr. Kerrigan second. Ms. Miley stated that she'd like to have an amended budget. Vote taken. Trussell, aye. Emily Kerrigan, aye. And the rest, it's not cooperating, but the rest were ayes. So, and so this is the budget, right? So you didn't vote like a budget part. It was, this is the budget.
So I think in fairness, based on my discussions with other people that were there and public and stuff, what I, and I guess perception is reality, right? What I heard and what I was voting for was the operating budget that we're discussing, because we're advancing it. In fact, we had a discussion, and I think at one point you had said, Steve, but you can look back, was we're not here to discuss anything outside the budget. That is, the capital was separate. We had the proposal, which is very well detailed, but because I had questions, which we did try to bring up about, I think there's like 880,000 in miscellaneous expenses for fire. I don't know if that's in this year or not. That's probably in the future. The two other things. But we did talk, and Jason, it's not new. I have mentioned the town hall before and asked to have it considered. Whether or not it has merit, I don't know.
But we just discussed that, I think, in August and the other meetings, that it was like a very, very expensive project, and there was a better opportunity to deal with a lot of smaller projects and go after that with a large, either going for an appropriation or going for another, hold on 2 seconds. And I would say, I don't want you to put words in my mouth, when we approved the overall budget, and that budget book with all of that information in it is the capital plan. What I said at that meeting was we were going into the nitty-gritty of the operating budget, but we were approving the overall.
Okay, well, I misunderstood. And put it this way, this is an opportunity, should we choose to, but I'm getting the sense we're not going to include the finance committee, include broader base input from the
We
public.
did include the finance committee in the capital discussions. Yes.
Yeah, Alex, I'm sure it wasn't your intention, but you said something like, with all fairness, like, this is an incredibly fair process. It doesn't mean we all get what we want, but I'm discouraged to hear the word fair being tossed around. I feel like this is like super fair. This is as fair as it gets for everyone to make a motion, for everyone to vote, and all of those things. So I believe this is a super fair process.
Anything else?
No, I would encourage looking at this again, but I understand a different opinion, so.
All right, there is no vote needed on that. The next item is the 40B application for 13 Neck Road. Can you take us through that?
Okay, so we received a letter, well, email from Mass Housing that is customary. You likely recall that we received one similar to that last summer regarding the proposed 40B up in North Lancaster. So that was sent with a digital copy of the full application. Right now, Jasmine Farinacci, who's our Director of Community Development and Planning, sent out a letter to town boards and committees, and then another one to interested parties. Both of them are on the website with a link, and we are collecting feedback from anybody that has comments or concerns. We're going to aggregate that feedback. Last time when we did the 40B feedback in North Lancaster, we had said to people that we would keep their names off it if they requested it, and that got a little sticky because we can't quite keep track of everything. So I ended up redacting the names off of all of them, but I would say if you're submitting something to Jasmine via email and you just don't want to have your name to it, or you just want to give a general area, just put it that exactly what you wanted to say, because we're going to submit them in a big package to the state. So it'll be our email. So we won't disclose anyone's emails unless you ask us to, but try to be a little clear.
Where would you like them to indicate that in the subject line?
Or just in the body of the
Just the
email.
body.
And so Jasmine put out a whole bunch of stuff. Now today I had put out the ballot online, so tomorrow's post will have where you can click on this, and then again, we will have this on the front page of the website. And I talked to the Director of Mass Development who's taking over this case today, and we have a comment period open until, well, we have to get them back to his office by the June 8th. So we're asking for all comments to be in to Jasmine by the end of business on June 5th, which is a Monday. That gives her a couple of days to aggregate it, and then for me to proof it, and then we'll submit it that way. And we will then put that on online. So if anybody is listening now and wants to go online, under the town's website, under Community Development and Planning, if you click on their department, on the left-hand side, there's a drop-down menu, and it says 13 Neck Road, and the 40B application is there, along with her call for comments, along with Mass Housing's call. And when we aggregate all of the comments, we will then have all of the town comments up on that section.
Great. Thank you. So timeline is get your comments into Jasmine by close of business June 5th so that we can submit them to the state by June 8th.
Right, and we'll need the board's either singular or collective comments.
Copy. Okay. Are there any questions?
Felix?
Oh, I'm asking if you have any
Oh,
questions.
so, commentary?
Comments.
I kind of have a message to Lancaster residents. I've been trying to think about the right way to say this. So, if you're not familiar with how 40Bs work, it's affordable housing. I'm not an expert, but I know enough about it to say, as you think about this project, which I have concerns about. I have significant concerns about this project. I expressed that at the Affordable Housing Trust meeting. So don't hear me say that I am necessarily for this project. However, I would encourage every resident, whether you're for or against this, when it comes to affordable housing in the state of Massachusetts, it can't just be no. It can't just be no affordable housing. So if you are against this, you need to be for something in the town of Lancaster that is affordable housing. Because until we maintain our safe harbor, we are at risk for unscrupulous 40Bs, and I'm not saying this is an unscrupulous 40B. What I'm saying is our answer cannot just be no. It has to be, we have a different plan. And our plan is affordable housing in other places. For example, this board approved an MOU for a 40R development in North Lancaster. That got approved by the town, and hopefully it's moving forward. So, if you were a resident that's like, I don't like it here, I think it would be better, you need to have a plan for somewhere else. So I'm trying to give feedback to the residents. I get it, things don't fit in certain areas, but it can't just be no across the board because the state will not allow that. So that's really the feedback I wanted to give to the residents. Thank you.
So, I know there's a lot of interest in or concern, questions about this. One of the things, just to clear up on the timeline, is people had mentioned April 27th as the beginning of a comment period, which would obviously end in a 30-day. And so
Who mentioned that? What people?
it's been on letters from the state and so on that I've seen around, but I don't know where exactly when it began.
What letters?
I understand, I saw a letter out there, which I did not receive. But at any rate,
Sorry, I just want to clarify. Is that,
no, the question is, there's usually, because I did serve as the town representative to a LIP that we bought, so I'm a little more familiar with the 40B. Usually, the first step is that we, the town, get applications, which we did receive electronically. And then the town the people have their own comments, which we can incorporate it in. Is the Board of Selectmen going to be sending our own letter? I mean, is that just a compilation of different people's thoughts? But we need to talk about it as a board too.
yeah, let me answer that, because as Kate said at the very end of her presentation just a little while ago,
Yeah.
we will aggregate all of the town's comments and send them with, I think she said, the either individual comments of the select board members or collective. I don't know if I'm using your exact words,
That's
but.
exactly what I said.
Yeah.
So she already said that we will be sending comments. It's either your comment, my comment, and his comment, or if we all agree on comments, we will send those along
Okay.
with those, but they also have to be in, so they can go into the
So-
state by the 8th of June.
So we have to put it on our next meeting to talk about this and if we want to make comments or what we want to say.
Indeed.
So the April 27th, and I came in today because I misunderstood something that was sent to me about coming in and looking at plans. My understanding is we're supposed to have hard copies of maps and plans. We do have electronic, but I don't believe the applicant gave us hard copies, which I think is,
No, that's not a requirement. The
Okay.
planning board has requested that all of those things come in electronically so they can share them. So
Okay.
that's sort of how it's going,
Okay.
rather than having big maps. But
things have changed.
I don't know who sent you anything about maps, because we just received,
I'm not on Wi-Fi, so I could do it, but I can show you.
okay, it's just, I don't know where this is coming from. And the 27th might have been the date on the mass housing letter, but we didn't receive it until the 4th or the 5th. It went to planning via email, and I just talked to Michael Busby, who's the mass housing person today, and said they had to change a site visit. So I said, given that, can we change the date for comments due to the 8th? And he said, yes, of course, thank you.
Okay.
So, I mean,
So we received it on the 4th, which technically, but because of the site walk, the clock starts.
so
30
they
days.
don't, yeah, I mean, they're not gonna turn away the town's comments if it's a couple days. I think they wanna just not have it sit on a shelf, but
No, I understand, but it's not just the town, I just want to make sure, because people in the public comment section and others are sending things directly to the state based on what they've said too, just make sure that they're within.
Well,
I
we
mean,
can't-
we're on
we
the same
can't
page.
advise
They
them
can
on
do
what they
that.
No, I understand that, and that's fine, and they can copy both for, it doesn't matter, I just want to make sure that everybody has the same timeline.
Well, we have our timeline, which is June 5th
June 10th is when they do.
into the town by.
that has always been our timeline. It's
Okay.
never changed, it just
Okay.
went out today. So if anybody's saying anything else, it wasn't with town staff
Okay.
participating.
Okay.
Anything else on that item?
Well, I'd like to.
Sorry, hold on a second.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'll let you speak. What I don't want, we had a public comment period, I don't know if it was before you got here, but I'll let you, I don't remember you being here, so I will give you a chance, but I don't want to open up the floodgates. So do you have,
I know. Well, I mean, I just, personally speaking,
you have to give your name and address, sorry.
Yes, my name is Martha Schmidt, and I live on Harvard Road in Lancaster, but I own a house on 13 Neck Road, right next to the site that they want to develop into this house. I'm all for 40B. I have no problem with 40B whatsoever. What I do have a problem with is 11 units on that small lot. I have a problem with the noise that's gonna accrue. I have a problem with the traffic. I have a problem with the sewer and the water supply. There's a lot of variables here, and I'm very concerned about it. So that's why I'm here.
No, and I appreciate that. And I want to be clear, Jason alluded to this at the beginning. First, this is early in the process. I don't want to speak for everyone on the board, but I have concerns about the project as well. Many that echo your concerns or concerns of others. It's early in the process. We will do the comments. I would encourage you and anyone you know who would like to submit comments to do so, get them to us by June 5th, and then we can incorporate them with the comments that we send to the state.
How do we do this? Do we have to write, or?
You can send an email to the town planner on the webpage, Jasmine Farinacci. We can write her name down for you before you leave. Yeah. And just send her an email with your comments. Well, Sherry, you know how to, you know Jasmine's email, don't you? Okay.
I'm not going to give it to you also.
I think I went to school with your daughter, didn't I?
Yes, I went to school with my
mother.
daughter
Oh,
and my son. Yes.
Don't get it started,
Sorry.
please.
Yeah, we won't mention that.
Yeah. My husband always says, is there anyone in the town you didn't go to school with or you're not related to? And it's a small window of people. But so I would encourage you to send in the comments.
And Jason did allude to it and so on. There's very few, the state is going to look at safety, public health, and environmental. Those are the criteria that they look at.
But I don't want to presuppose anything, but I do feel like if we're sending in comments, getting these comments into the state, and then, the same conversations with the developer to say this, not that, some concerns.
I just feel like he's trying to put 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag. It's just not
I
gonna
appreciate
work.
using the word potatoes.
Now.
Thank you.
Makes me hungry.
Yeah. Thank you, though. I appreciate it. All right. On to appointments and resignations. First, sad to see the email the other day from Tom Christopher announcing that he is resigning from the Conservation Commission the end of May 2023. He has served the town incredibly well and faithfully on the Concom and other boards and commissions over his lifetime, and so I want to be one of many who will thank him for his service to the town. Is there a motion to accept the resignation of Tom Christopher as of May 31st?
I'll offer a motion to accept the resignation of Tom Christopher with regret.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And he has made
Would you like
it.
to be recognized for a comment?
I'm sorry, I would like to be recognized, Mr. Chair. I should have done that under discussion.
Quite all right. Go ahead.
I echo your comments. They were very well said. And I hope that while he doesn't sit in the chair formally, that he will continue, as many residents do, to help serve us as he has on the planning board and the Conservation Commission and who knows what else.
Indeed. All right. Next is a group of annual appointments. They are town employees or people who are in these roles. It is for ADA coordinator, chief. I'm going to list them off because I'm going to hope we can accomplish this in an en bloc motion. But if not, my
You want to read the whole thing?
colleagues, I'm just going to read off.
Stop right there because I just have a question.
Can I stop where?
Just before town council? Just because I
Okay,
have a
well,
question
so
about town
then
council.
never mind. We won't do it en bloc then.
Oh,
What, do you have a question about town council?
May, Mr.
You
Chairman?
have one, so I can't tell you whether or not to have one.
Thank
No.
you. Before we move the block, can I just ask, we have used Mieres and Harrington in the past.
Yes.
We had Merrick and O'Connell that I know in particular. Are we consolidating that and everything to Mieres and Harrington? I know that says that here.
It
It
does.
says Town Council and Labor Council.
It
I just
does.
didn't know that was,
Yeah.
okay.
That's
I know
Well,
it
it says
says
that.
that. I just wanted to make sure that there was
quite all
sometimes
right.
things.
And I think
through
they've
the
done a
crack.
fantastic job, so. All right, so hoping we can do an en-bloc vote for this. ADA Coordinator, Chief Procurement Officer, Animal Control Officer, Animal Inspector, Barnbrook, Keeper of the Lockup, oddly the Chief of Police, the MART Advisory Board Designee, Measure of Wood and Bark, critical, Sealer of Weights and Measures, Town Council and Labor Council, and the Memorial Day Committee.
Shouldn't you have to read the names?
Oh, well, it's printed in this thing. Would you like me to read the names?
I think I move to appoint for terms to expire June 30th, 2024, ADA Coordinator Kelly Dolan, Chief Procurement Officer Kate Hodges, Animal Control Officer Phyllis Tower, Animal Inspector Barn Brook, Phyllis Tower, Keeper of the Lockup, Police Chief Everett Moody, MART Advisory Board Designee Kelly Dolan, Measure of Wood and Bark Ronald W. Valinsky, Sealer of Weight and Measures Ronald W. Valinsky, Town Council and Labor Council, Mears and Harrington LLP, Memorial Day Committee, Robert Foster, Mandy Cannon, Karen Shaw, Ann Fuller, Bob Turvo, Trish O'Toole, Stacy LeBlanc, and Jane Nowinski.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, although it sounded like you were going to make one. Do you?
No.
Okay, all right. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms.
Aye.
Turner, Mr. Allison, Mr. Kerrigan, aye. Now, reappointments.
Move to reappoint terms to expire June 30th, 2026, Agricultural Commission, Peter Jacobowitz, Affordable Housing, Victoria Petrarca, Carolyn Reed. and
Affordable Housing Trust.
Affordable Housing Trust, Victoria Petrarca, Carolyn Reed, Jason Allison, with a term to expire May 11th, 2026. Continuing Animal Control Commission, Adrian Gauda,
Gadawa.
Christine Burke, Board of Assessors, Deb Sanders, Board of Appeals, Matthew Mayo, period.
On the agenda, David Stadther was listed, but he no longer wishes to be reappointed,
He actually resigned some recent.
which is a very
during the
dramatic
year.
way of wishing not to be reappointed.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's not current. And there's some on the back as well, but
Yeah,
do we want
Board
to
of
take this
Registrars.
separately?
Yeah, we can take them together.
Board of
Yeah.
Registrars, Elizabeth Cahill, Collector Treasurer, Mary Frost, Commission on Disability, Mike McHugh, Eugene Brazo, Conservation Commission, Thomas Seidenberg, Council on Aging, Nicole Jimino Canis, J. M. Moody, Historical Commission, Heather Lennon, Amy Brown, Memorial School Reuse Committee, Sherry Cutler, Carolyn Reed, Recreation Committee, Kimberly Shaw, and Thomas Wood.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on those reappointments?
Point of order, since it's a
Yes.
block and
Yes.
I'm in there, would it be appropriate for me to?
Are you in
vote?
there? I didn't see you.
And he's an Affordable Housing Trust.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Appropriate for me to vote affirmative on it?
I think you can still vote on
I think
yourself.
it's still voting yourself, yeah.
Cool.
I mean, if it ends up you're the deciding vote, then we'll, but I think you're fine, since
It might
this
be
body
tough.
was the one who assigned you to the Affordable Housing Trust, so I feel like we're probably okay. But thank you for asking that clarifying question.
I
Any
think,
further? Oh, sorry.
yes. You had discussion, right? I think that having, Deb Sanders has served well in town as an assessor for many years and as the Board of Assessors, on the Board of Assessors. But I believe that we do have people in town who are assessors, who have experience here. And I think having residents serve especially, the Board of Assessors reviews tax abatements and questions about policy questions, not the mechanics of of taxation. Advises us as to a tax rate, whether or not we want to split tax rate and so on. And I think that kind of, those kind of decisions should be people who are residents invested. I think all of our, when possible, I think our bylaw did, if it still doesn't, speak to a residency.
It does not.
Does not, okay.
I was gonna say, so it should, if that's the will of the board, it should be updated at the next town meeting.
I know there were a couple outliers, like it used to say the ZBA was one that you could be,
It was,
wasn't in here, but most of them.
I spent most of the
did.
afternoon looking.
Okay, because I thought it was a registered voter in Lancaster. But at any rate, I do believe that it should be
None of
registered.
them require you to be a registered voter.
Yeah, you can't require a registered voter.
Okay. It's a good way to get
Resident.
more voting.
You can be a resident.
Right, resident.
The residency
this
is
does
one
not
thing,
require.
but yeah, but I cannot find it, which doesn't mean that the board can't make that determination. I think a lot of communities have. There's just a method to.
We would just have to make that policy
When
determination then.
it has been tradition here, and I would like, for the most part, and I would like to see that followed. So I would thank Deb for her service, but I would ask that we recruit for that, and, possibly if we can't.
Right, so just a point of order on what we're doing. We're in the middle of a motion approving them on block.
Correct, and
So are
I
you-
would make an amendment to remove from this block Deb Sanders to recruit further for that position. It's possible.
So now there is an amendment to the motion. And your amendment, if I'm hearing it right, is to remove the reappointment of Deb Sanders to the Board of Assessors on this motion.
Yes.
Is there a second? Hearing none, the amendment fails for lack of a second. So then we return back to the original motion. And any further discussion on the original motion? I think we should 100% dig into your question and then make a policy decision on whether or not we want to make a resident requirement, but as there isn't one right now, I don't think we should hold someone to a standard we don't have codified at all in any way.
I would say if there are residents in town who want to join the Board of Assessors, send in your information. I wouldn't be surprised if Deb's doing us a favor.
And to be clear,
Well, there'll be no opening, so.
But I do think it's a conversation worth having about residency requirement. I just don't know that this is the vehicle for that conversation. All right, hearing no more discussion on this, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Nay.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Kerrigan, aye. 2-1-0. All right. Licenses and permits. Madam Clerk, would you like to take us through the license and permit applications?
Yes. I move to approve the rental application for use of the Lancaster Town Green made by Rachel Rosengard on behalf of the Thayer Memorial Library for August 12th, 19th, 26th, 2023, from 10:30 to 11:30 for Animal August on Town Green.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Allison? Mr. Kerrigan, aye.
So would they be grazing like the good old days
I
on the
don't
green?
know, yeah, we'll show up on the 12th, 19th, and 26th, and you'll find out.
There's a gazebo joke in here somewhere.
There's always a gazebo joke in
There
there
is a
somewhere.
bylaw that you aren't allowed to hitch your donkey or something to any post that's out there.
You are not.
You're not allowed to.
Yeah, they can graze, though.
What about chickens?
Yeah, okay.
There's nothing on
It's a good thing
chicken.
it's
Next
a
one.
donkey, you know.
I know. Next one.
I approve to approve.
You moved to approve.
Excuse me. I move to approve the special one-day liquor license for wine and malt made by Sterling Street Brewery for FC Stars event to be served at FC Stars Complex, 70 McGovern Boulevard on Friday, May 26, 2023, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Allison? Mr. Allison?
Aye. Sorry, my son plays on Stars, and I was just staring at it for a while, and I'm like, and you can't keep
Aye.
playing Stars.
All those, okay, 3-0-0, we don't need the whole backstory. Okay, next.
Literally,
I was wondering why you were staring.
just trying to be a good student.
Next item up.
I move to approve the application and license for license for theatrical exhibitions, public shows, public amusements, and exhibitions of every description held on Wednesdays, the Pro Farm Market.
Weekdays.
Weekdays, to for the Profound Market at the Lancaster Fairgrounds, 318 Seven Bridge Road, to be held Saturday, June 10th, 2023, from 8:30 to 5.
Yeah. Second.
Yeah. Any further discussion?
Yes. I'm sure these have all been through the police department, because I know
ask that
I
every
do
time and the
ask
answer is
that
the same
every
every time.
time. The answer
I'd like
is
to assume
yes.
if it gets here, it's gone through that.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I like to say yes.
Okay. You would like to say yes, there's more discussion?
No,
Okay.
I'd like to say yes.
Okay.
It's gone through.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Allison? Mr. Kerrigan? Aye. Okay. Next
When we get through
item
the
up
rest
for
of these, I
bid.
have a quick one. Application, to approve the application for town hall licenses, dancing, sports, games, fairs, exhibitions, plays, or entertainment of public diversion on Sunday. The Profound Market at Lancaster Fairgrounds, 318 Seven Bridge Road, to be held Sunday, June 11th, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
I won't even ask. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Kerrigan? Aye. Okay. Next.
I make a motion to approve the special one-day liquor license for the Bolton Fair, 318 Seven Bridge Road, bless you, for the event Profound Market from June 10th, 2023, 8:30 to 5 o'clock, and June 11th, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Delivery date, June 9th, 2023, for all alcohol, nonprofit.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Well, no, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No.
Okay. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
I
Aye.
I guess I should have asked under discussion, but they need to apply for a delivery date?
I think that's more telling us.
Just information?
I think that's just information, though. But good question. Next.
I would like to offer a motion for the application for license for theatrical exhibitions, public shows, public amusements, and exhibitions of every description held on weekdays for Neshoba Rock and Brew, the Carve Foundation fundraiser, at the Lancaster Fairgrounds, 318 Seven Bridge Road, on June 17th, 2023, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing
I
none.
will say it's a wonderful event.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms.
Aye.
Turner?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next.
I'd like to offer a motion to approve a special one-day liquor license for all alcohol for Neshoba Rock and Brew, Nishikar Foundation fundraiser, to be held at Lancaster Fairgrounds, 318 Seven Bridge Road, June 17, 2023, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Kerrigan? Aye. 300. Thank you all. Next up is communications.
New business?
Oh, sorry, new business. There was nothing there. Sorry. Anybody have new business? Oh, sorry, he had his hand up.
Would you like to go first? So I'd like to make a motion that all requests of town staff time and resources flow through the select board chair.
Wasn't that always our thing? No?
Yep.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, I want to make sure that we are being efficient in all of our resourcing. I feel like, if there are needs of town, they've got a town to run, and I feel like it's very important that if there are needs of staff, it really should flow through the chair, which is probably going to go to the town administrator. I just want to make sure they're not getting conflicting information. So that's my motion.
Okay.
I think my discussion would just be, I think that we're three equally elected board members, and that we should have equal access to town administrator. Certainly, if anybody was abusing it or became onerous, then the board would need to talk about it. But I think that would be, it puts a burden to the chair, and it also limits that shouldn't be done with regard to personality, so.
All right. I honestly thought we had that already, but maybe I was wrong. What did we have? Don't we have a?
Town council usually goes through the town administrator and chair,
I
but,
thought we had a
There was
policy.
a motion for council to go through, any requests of council go through the chair.
Oh, maybe that
yes,
was it.
town
Yeah,
council.
okay. All right, any further discussion on the motion? This is establishing a board policy.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to be voting in the affirmative, but I would say for new policy, I know you're in the first few weeks of your second term, so you don't have to face the voters for 3 more years, but if you just let the chair know in advance, that would be fantastic.
And I think we're supposed to put stuff on and take it up at the next one anyway, but for things, policies, but
All right.
per our bylaw.
All those, and I think that's per our policy.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
I just took a guess there.
Crazy like
So
that.
2, 1, 0. Any other new business? You had something, did you not?
I did.
Okay.
That, after just approving the litany of these, we've talked multiple times about revenue enhancements and looking back at revenue fees and ways,
enhancements.
revenue enhancements and different ways to make sure to visit our fee schedule and applications for everything. And I think that we have done some changes, positive changes. But looking at some of the other ones that we haven't looked at would be
What are you suggesting?
good to do. To review, for example, we had talked before Kate and before you, but we talked about it multiple times.
At some point, over that time period.
Yes, about having, as some towns do, Topsfield, Brimfield, and so on, having fees for vendors at certain events. You know, things that we can try to do to help
Yeah.
supplement. Also to review and make sure that our liquor licenses and requirements and
I believe you did review most of your fees, right? And we changed a lot of them.
We changed
the liquor
all-
license
we
fees.
changed all of our
Changed all the
town
fees,
Yeah, and the requirements and that kind
Yeah,
of
so,
stuff.
yeah, we did all that
So I said, you know,
in the fall?
anything as we have, yeah,
No, you just did it.
just recently.
Okay.
We looked at some other ones too.
Can you confirm? Yes.
Yes, he can confirm, as the
Yes.
one who's been issued, many,
Sorry.
Yes.
that's okay. That means more people have to go to the fantastic Rock and Brew. All right, if there is a particular one that you think needs
No,
revisiting,
it
hasn't been,
was,
then we should
we
talk
had
about it.
we had talked about all things, and I know when we talked about it, when we changed them a little bit, we hit some, but we didn't hit all of our,
Again, if you have specific ones we didn't hit that you want to talk about, let's put them on a list and talk about it.
okay,
And we can consider it at the next meeting if you have.
okay, well, that
Particular ones,
one,
yeah.
one I just talked about is the vendors that I would like to.
But we don't have a fee right now for that, do we?
No, we don't.
Okay.
That was
So that's a whole
discussed.
other.
As I said, that was discussed, so you said, tell you, so I'm telling
No,
you.
I know, I'm sorry, I should have been clearer, I meant existing fees that we have that we didn't address, that's what I thought you were talking about.
Okay.
But the vendor fee
Earth
thing is a whole
removal.
different one.
Earth removal for sure.
Oh, okay, but I can use, like, can we add it to the agenda? I mean, I'll write it down.
Okay, I thought you said just let you know.
I assumed you would let me know in between meetings.
Okay.
But that's fantastic, earth product removal, fees, great. Okay. Hearing no more new business. Communications, the town offices will be closed on Monday, May 29th, 2023, in observance of Memorial Day, as it should be. And the select board's next regularly scheduled meeting will be held on Monday, June 5th, 2023, in this room at 6 p.m. I don't believe we have any miscellaneous correspondence and memorandum, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair? As you were good to note about our closing and observance of Memorial Day, most people know the ceremonies begin on Town Green at 9 o'clock. And all are invited to honor Lancaster's fallen veterans. It's one of my favorite days in Lancaster, so hopefully people will come to do so.
Sounds good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.